In this video, we're going to be filling out the t-chart, and I'm going to explain what are the two pieces that we always have to pay attention to. So to start with, I'm going to look at the input values, and I notice that I have a 1, a 2, some spaces, and a 5. So since everything's a pattern, I'm going to go ahead and just start counting. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to count backwards and say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which means this is 0. On the other side, I have a 5 and a 9. So the first thing I have to decide is how much am I counting by if I go from 5 to 9. So from 5 to 9, I have to have 4 more. So I know that this is changing by 4. But then that also means that going forward, that is also changing by 4. So if I have 9 and I have 4 more, I should end up with 13. And then that makes sense, because then 13, if I add 4 more, is 17. Now the question is, how do I find the numbers if I'm going backwards? So the original numbers, I am increasing in this direction. So take a look at the arrowhead. But technically, if I go the other way, I'm going backwards. So if I go in this direction, then the expectation is to go ahead and subtract. So I'm going to use my number line to help me out with this. So what that means is I know I have 5. So I know I have 5, and I know that I'm traveling 4 spaces. That means I'm traveling 4 spaces forward, and I can also say that I'm traveling 4 spaces backward. So I'm going to start with 5. I know 5 is here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to step backwards 4 steps. So that means I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now wherever I land, that must be my next number. So I'll go ahead and say that that's a 1. Now the curious thing is I can check to see if I were to add normal, 1 plus 4 does in fact make 5. So I know this is correct. So I can always check by doing the normal step, my original plus 4. Now once I'm there, I still have to go back one more time. So again, remember, it's 4 steps. So starting at 1, I'm going to go backwards 4 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And it turns out that I land here. Now this number is between -2 and -4, so I know this number is -3. So that must be my first number here. Now that my t-chart is filled out, the only thing I got to figure out now is what are the two pieces that I have to concentrate on. So to start with, I know that I keep adding by 4. That would be the main pattern. So that means that this plus 4 here from now on is what I'm going to refer to as my times 4. And this would be piece number 1. The second thing I want done from now on is any number that's next to the 0, okay, it's going to be highlighted. So I'm going to start here, and I will highlight this space. Now the thing about it is that once I highlight that space, I want to say that this happens to be the point where I will now begin. And I haven't given any rules as to what that means. It's just the language that I want you to think of. And this is going to be the second piece I pay attention to. So now that I have this first piece and I have this second piece, I'm going to put them together. So I'm going to go ahead and put them together to create my rule. And my rule is going to start like this. Times 4, comma, minus 3. And the only reason that I say this is minus 3 is because it's a negative number. If this had been a positive number, I would have said plus 3. But because it's negative, I change it over here and say minus 3. Now, since I want things to match and I went through the trouble of highlighting this section, I'll go ahead and I will highlight the -3 as well. There we go. Now, as soon as I create my rule, the next thing I have to do is I have to go ahead and kind of insert it within my sentence. And the sentence always begins the same way. So we say the output is the input, and I leave a space because that's where the rule will go. And since I know what the rule is, all I have to do is just insert it in that blank space. So I'll do so, and I'll say times 4, comma, -3. Now, once I have this sentence, I have all the information I need to create an appropriate equation. So let's start breaking it down. Output always means y. Is the equal sign. Input always means x. Times is my multiplication dot. Circle the 4, minus, subtraction, and circle the 3. With this information, I can now write my equation as y equals x times 4 minus 3. And here is my finished equation. Just so that everything continues to match, I have this is highlighted, so by the time I get to my equation, it's the exact same piece, so I highlight there. Keep in mind that in order for me to do this, I always have to find two things. What number am I counting by? That's my times. And what number do I begin with? Okay? And that'll be all.